Okay, so about 2 months ago, I got a full set of Generation whistles. And I've played the B flat for a long time, really liked it, and I never played any of the others. So I was really excited. I got them all out of the box, and I played them, and they all played fine. They surprised me how well they all played, except for the D. And the D, I felt like it was a dud. D for dud. And Rob Brown, the one of the owners of Generation Whistles, it's a family-owned company, pretty small run. He actually saw my video and messaged me and ended up sending me 3 more Generation D whistles to try out. And I got them, and unfortunately the package got smashed. So these are the bodies of 2 of them. And you can see the Paisley one, it's kind of an oval. This was smashed almost flat. Like all the whistles on this end, they got crunched. So the nickel body still has a dent in it. And so I got these out, and I was, since he'd done this, I got the other one out and I played it, and it was a little bit better the second time, and I'll get into that in a second. But it still had exhibited roughness, and I spent like a whole morning trying to like pull back on my breath and play it a little bit differently, and it was inconsistent in its inconsistency, if that doesn't make sense. But it was, I think what happened, my theory, this is my working theory, is that when I did the demonstration, there was a guy that pointed out that I was probably overblowing the Generation in the first video. And the only issue I have with that theory is that all the other Generation whistles played fine. Like I can tell a lot of times when I'm overblowing something, and that was breaking weird. And while I think I was overblowing it somewhat, and that was exacerbating the problem, I think there's more to it than that. And so what I think is going on, or was going on, is that there's some moisture in the windway, because I would start to, all the whistles, they would play okay for a little bit, and then at some point they would start to like break very strangely, or they wouldn't, like it would be a really, they would just like honk in weird places, like I was experiencing in that video. And when I looked at them, they would have like this couple beads of moisture right in the center of the windway. And so I think it's moisture related, and it may be that I was playing in an air conditioned environment, and that made it worse, and that's why it's hard to replicate. But at the end of the day, I don't really know exactly what was going on. What I have done since then, because I read that comment on my Generation whistle review, it took me a while to find it. I kind of missed it initially, but he said, "You're blowing it wrong, and I bet if you sent me that Generation, it would be fine." And I said, I got the whistle out again, and I actually spent like a couple of hours messing with it, and it's still like I would get it out and I'd play it and it would play okay, and then it would get like crunchy and yucky again. So I thought, no, you're just, it's just a bad whistle. And so so what I did was, I'd never had a problem with the E flat, was fine, and technically they share the same head. So what I did is I popped the head off the E flat, I popped the head off of the brass Generation, and I put the E flat head on the Generation, and it played fine, played beautifully. And so after that, I thought, yeah, it's a bum head. So I took all the heads off of all the whistles that I had. The Paisley head was on very tight. I think it's a thick coating of paint, and it died in the getting off. But what I did was I ended up, when I put them back on, I did the most basic Generation tweak that you can. And if you see in the windway, you can probably see there's something that's poster putty or sticky tack or blue tack, depending on where you live. And it's a putty, you stick it on the wall and you can stick posters to it. And I packed the cavity right underneath the windway with the sticky tack. And I noticed it does actually firm up the tone. It makes it a little bit more substantial. And I had to freeze the whistles and boil water in order to get some of these off. The E-flat head came off pretty easily. The brass generation head came off easily, but the nickel and the paisley and the purple one, which will not be seen, those didn't come off very well. So I had to do a couple cycles of freezing and then sticking in the boiling water. And there's a possibility that it changed slightly the geometry of the bad whistle head, or that there was a coating on it that was causing it, or something in the windway that was causing it to catch moisture that was removed in the process, or the sticky tack is helping. But since I did that and put all the stuff back on, I haven't noticed the problem that I had originally. Either that, or it's because I've just been spending all day messing with these. Maybe I just figured it out. So I'm very fallible. So here's the E flat with the sticky tack. That's very nice. One of the problems, I guess, with trying to make this scientific is you will never play the whistle for the first time ever again. So I was trying in that other video to capture, like, this is what you get out of the box. And it does take some time to get familiar with a whistle and how it plays and how hard to blow it. I think I've done my Fado whistles a disservice because I think they might play better than I've been playing them in some of the demo videos because they're also sensitive to overblowing, but that's a different thing. So the E-flat still plays fantastic. I think it plays a little bit better with the sticky tack in the windway. And so what I have here is I have the head from my original brass D on the nickel body, and I have the head from the nickel body, which I thought was a little bit better than this one. Like when I just played the set initially, this one had the fewest problems of any of them. So I stuck that one on the brass because I like the brass. And then I have the paisley. I had the head that came on the purple whistle, generation whistle, on the red paisley whistle. So, and I packed all three of them with the sticky tack. So that's the only tweak that I've done. And the blue one, I went through with an X-Acto knife, and there was a little tab that was sticking into the windway, and I took that one off, and I think it may make a difference. So here's let me see if I can get show you the tones real quick. So here's the brass with the nickel top head. Nickel. Paisley. I noticed a difference a lot on this one. It has, like I said, a warmer, slightly warmer, more substantial tone. So here's the my Franken whistles. little bit more like a huskiness to it. This one does sound just maybe a touch brighter. It's very subtle though. So if you're debating over the nickel and the brass may be slightly warmer, the nickel slightly brighter, but I would say it doesn't really make that much of a difference. The paint does, but even then it's pretty slight. So here's the brass. So that's sorry, there's a hawk flying around. So, no issues with that. I mean, the only thing that I would say maybe is that there's, the tuning is kind of that classic generation tuning. I believe that they're well loved for. Here's the nickel. So again, that's the bum head, and it plays fine. So could just be me. There's the paisley. So that one plays fine too. So I mean, let me see if I can intentionally overblow this. See if that. So here's the bad head. Bad head. Ew, generations are awful. Isn't that interesting? Let's see, check something. See, that's interesting, because when I was doing the experiment with to show Rob what I was seeing, and when I did this, it got really rough. So there is something that's changed, because that sounds fine now. So, but I think this is, I mean, you can make a generation sound awful if you work really hard to do it. So overblowing, so that's probably contributing to the whole issue with, you know, people saying cheap whistles are awful. A lot of cheap whistles are people's first whistles, and so they think, but it's, and part of it is every once in a while there are duds. Now, the only difference is out here it is probably almost 100 degrees right now. Maybe it's mid 90s. So it's possible that the heat is just helping keep the windway clear. Yeah, that shows you kind of what you can get with the generation, and so I think I'm gonna change them to my recommended list. I said I'll probably say, you know, you're probably going to have to knock the head off to get them to play in tune, because a lot of them, they were just kind of sharp. The C was really sharp, and so I had to freeze them and then boil them, and that helped really quickly, like almost instantaneously. If you stick it in the freezer for 5-10 minutes, and you get water almost at boiling, and then you just stick the head in, you'll hear a crack, and that's the glue, I guess, coming loose, and you can pull it out and immediately get it off. And I think what's happening is the metal is shrinking because of the cold, and then you heat the plastic up, and the plastic expands, so the plastic expands before the metal does, and so for a second it's really easy to move it. So I'd pull the whole head off, clean off all the glue and residue on there, and then use like a slide grease or something. If you have slide grease, maybe Vaseline would work. I used like a trombone slide grease that I had lying around, and I put that on there, and that helped me get it back on, and it gets really tight towards the end, but it helped me to tune them, or get them to where I could play along with other things. So yeah, so I hope that's helpful, and I'm actually, I feel mixed emotions, because I feel like my initial assessment was unfair to Rob and the Generation family, Mr. Generation, and but I hope I'm happy, because I wanted to do another video that showed that the generations weren't as bad as my first video was, maybe indicated. And so I really think that the D, I would say, generations are kind of a staple in Irish music, and a lot of people played them, and maybe buy a couple of them, and pick the best one, or pop the head off, like I said, do the sticky tack tweak, and they're I mean, for the cost, they're a good whistle. I would say, like, even, and I think I even said that in the first video, that even that one, I said it was okay to learn on. It just, I guess that one issue that I was noticing, it made it difficult for me to play it faster, with precision. But again, that could have, I will admit that could have just been me, my inadequacies as a player, and maybe no fault of the whistle. But my pride says that it was probably the air conditioning. So let that be a lesson to you. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. And Rob, I'm sorry. Yeah, anyway. Have a good day.